Well, listeners, I'm excited because not only do I have a fellow organizer, but also a fellow podcaster, Deanna Yates. I'm so happy she's here and she's going to talk to us about minimalism, which I know a lot of you have questions about. So, Deanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Janet, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, before we start talking about minimalism, what made you decide to focus on that, but also start your podcast?
I just knew families were struggling with all of the stuff in their lives. I mean, it's just so easy to bring stuff in, and yet it is so hard to let it go once we have it. And so that is why I really wanted to focus on this area, particularly decluttering and organizing, but with the spin of intentional living and slight minimalism. I do call myself the wannabe minimalist because I am not an extreme minimalist at all. And so I tell people that I am the minimalist for moms with kids, that we have stuff, we have life. And so, yeah, that's kind of what led me here.
So, what are some of the misconceptions people have about becoming a minimalist or
I
minimalism?
Yeah, I think that comes down to thinking you have to be extreme, thinking that you can only live with, out of a suitcase, that you can only have the very bare minimum, one plate, one set of utensils per person, nothing on any surface. You can't use any decor or anything like that. So I think it really just, people think it's really cold and really stark. And so you've seen things like cozy minimalism come out, and kind of hygge and kind of going in that direction as kind of a pushback against that cold minimalism with the all white walls. And, just people, I think, equate it also with the single lifestyle, right? You've seen a lot of single men adopt minimalism, and it can be very tech centric as well. So you've kind of seen it from that perspective. And so I think that scares, especially us busy moms, scares us off. Like, that is not me. I don't see myself in that. And so that's, I think, where people get minimalism wrong. So it doesn't have to be living with the bare minimum. To me, it's more about being intentional.
And I'm glad you said that because, like you said, people think you got bare walls, one chair, one spoon.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's really almost about the quantity of things. Because the other day I was going through things and I'm like, why do I have two sets of, measuring spoons? I only really need one. I'm not that, I don't cook like that. So, like you said, it's really just about really being intentional. So, for people, families, singles who really would like to move towards being minimalist, what are some of the things that they can do just to really get started?
The first thing I always recommend people to do, whether they want to even think about minimalism or not, is really think about their values and why they're wanting to make the change, because it's going to be hard. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, it's a piece of cake. You just decide to, declutter your stuff one day. It's not that. It's all about the mindset. And so we have to think about, where is it that we want to be? Who is the person I want to be? How do I want to use my house? How do I want to use my space? And really honing in on what that is. If you like to entertain, your life is going to be very different. And you have, teenage kids who come all over to your house all the time. That's going to be very different than someone who, has a newborn and they're not entertaining. They're just not in that space right now. So you have to figure out, how do I use my space? What is the purpose of my home? Our home is where we live and we get to decide, right? Like, it is our sanctuary. And so I think sometimes we kind of just let that go. We don't even think about it. We're like, oh, well, it's our house. Like, we just don't even put that level of intention, just that first level. So that's where I would start. And I would say, pick one area to focus on first. And it's an area that isn't the hardest for you. Don't start with your pictures. Don't start with very sentimental things. Don't start with anyone else's stuff. You have to start with your own stuff. But pick an area that's going to make a difference for you. So if you are a mom that looks in her closet, or just a person, sorry, I keep talking about moms because I talk about to moms all day long. So if you are like looking in your closet and you're like, oh, I have nothing to wear, right? We've all had this moment. I have a closet full of clothes, but I have nothing to wear. Start there. That's going to make every day better because you have to get dressed every day. If your closet's not a problem for you, but your area is a mess and you're always panicking and rushing to get out the door, and you just feel so stressed out, like when you leave, start there. Pick an area that's going to make a difference for you right from the get go, and it will just be that first domino that makes you excited to do more and more and more and really get into it.
I like that advice. Start in one area and because as you were talking, I'm like, you know what? I'm organized, but I really need to really tackle those coats in my entryway closet because it's winter time. We're getting into the spring. I'm ready to just
Yeah.
like get rid of stuff, bring in the spring stuff. So thank you so much for that tip. So Deanna, what is like maybe one or two strategies that you use to help you stay organized?
So for me, it is the one that really made a difference for me was it's the simple things, right? It's the just don't set it down. I was so bad at just setting something down on the first surface would come into contact with. So my keys would end up in the kitchen and my phone would end up on my daughter's dresser. And so it would just so chaotic, right? One of the reasons my husband got me the watch years ago was so I could ding my phone so I would stop looking for it. So, anybody listening to this, I am not perfect. I never claim to be perfect. I'm a work in progress, and that's why I teach this because I've been there and I know how it is.
Hmm.
And so I would just say, like, that was the one thing for me is like, just take that extra. I mean, honestly, it only takes 10 seconds, if that. It's
Yes.
shocking how much you can get done in the tiniest amount of time. And so just don't set
Yes.
it down on the first surface. Put it where it belongs, or at least where with other like things, right? So maybe I don't have the time to put all of the groceries away. Like sometimes that happens, right? Like I get home and it's like our daughter's just about to walk through the door. And so it's like I'll put the cold stuff away, but I leave the dry stuff right at the foot of the pantry, right? Because it's like that's where it goes. And so I can get to that kind of stuff when I need to. So sometimes I panic at that, but I don't know where it lives. Well, just put it in the general vicinity of where you think it should live. And that'll help you kind of start with that process of like, okay, I do actually like this here. I do go look for this here. Now, how can I give it a home? So that's mine is just don't just set it down right when you walk in because that's the easiest thing for you at that moment. It is not the easiest thing for you in your life in the long run.
Oh my goodness, Deanna, you're talking to me because that's one of the things I vowed this year was like, Janet, just stop putting things down and put them away. And like you said, it only takes like a second just to really
Yeah,
put stuff away. So yes, I truly can relate and I understand to that because I was like, I want to see clear surfaces. I just want
right?
to be able, my goal was to wake up in the morning because my dresser's on like the other side of the room and just not see anything that's not supposed to be there. So I truly
Mm,
understand.
yeah.
So this has truly been a pleasure to talk to you. So how can those watching or listening can connect with you?
Sure. So you can email me at Deanna at wannabeclutterfree.com. Wannabe like the Spice Girls song. And I'm also wannabe clutter free on all the socials. So you can DM me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook there as well. I do have a private Facebook group if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, my podcast is Wannabe Minimalist. So you can come over there and Janet, I'll have to have you on the show.
Oh, that'll be exciting. And of course, those watching as well as listening, I will have direct links to Deanna's website on the show description. So again, Deanna, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule.
Thanks for having me.